She stood in the bullpen of the 14th Precinct, Chicago, her new badge still catching the fluorescent glare, when Captain Harlan Reed barked across the room, "Look alive, people, our diversity hire finally showed up." He didn't even glance at her as the laughter rippled. They all knew the rookie's name was Aisha Carter, 28, top of the academy, but to Reed she was just the punchline he'd been waiting for. "Where are you reading this from? New York, London, Lagos, Mumbai?" Drop your city in the comments and keep scrolling, because 6 months later that same rookie walked into Reed's glass office, laid his own captain's badge on the desk, and said, "It's mine now." Aisha Carter reported for her first shift on a biting January morning, the wind off Lake Michigan slicing through her coat. She had grown up in Inglewood, graduated from the University of Illinois with a criminology degree, and finished first in her academy class in every metric that mattered. She expected pushback. She did not expect the entire precinct to treat her like a quota box checked by the mayor's office. Captain Reed, made sure of it. He assigned her the midnight beat in the worst corner of the district, partnered her with Officer Doyle, who smelled of bourbon at roll call, and told the squad, if the rookie wants to play cop, let her earn the playground. They laughed again. She logged the slight, said nothing, and started walking her post. Main conflict ignited 3 weeks in. He called her into his office after a foot chase ended with her tackling a dealer who dropped a backpack of heroin. She had the cuffs on, the drugs bagged the body. Cam rolling. He watched the footage, leaned back and said, "Nice sprint, Carter. Too bad you forgot to call it in. Next time you feel like being a hero, remember whose name is on the door." She answered, "Protocol says notify dispatch after containment, sir. I contained." He smirked. "Protocol also says respect the chain of command. You're still at the bottom link." He wrote her up for insubordination anyway. She signed the form, eyes steady, and walked out. Suspension followed a month later. He claimed she'd mishandled evidence in a domestic call. Planted a knife, he said, to justify an arrest. She had the dash cam, the neighbor's Ring video, and the wife's own statement proving the knife was already in the husband's hand. He buried the exculpatory files under paperwork and suspended her for 30 days without pay. She spent those 30 days in the law library downtown, pulling every internal affairs complaint ever filed against Reed 18 in 6 years, all unfounded. She cross-referenced dates, names, and case numbers. She built a timeline. Build-up began the night she returned from suspension. He threw a retirement party for Sergeant Mills in the role. Call room, open bar, brass in attendance. He cornered her by the coffee urn. "Heard you been digging, rookie. Dig too deep and you'll hit sewer. That's where people like you belong." She smiled. First time anyone saw it reach her eyes. "Captain, sewers have rats. Rats leave prints." He laughed, but the sound cracked. They clashed again over the St. Patrick's Day parade detail. He wanted overtime for his cronies. She pointed out the budget line was already read. He shouted in front of the deputy chief, "You think a spread sheet makes you a cop?" She replied, "No, sir, but cooking the books makes you a thief." The deputy chief's eyebrows went up. Reed's face went scarlet. Development accelerated when the feds raided a chop shop in Pilsen. She had fed the task force a tip from a CI she'd cultivated on midnight, stip that led to VIN traced back to a towing company owned by Reed's brother-in-law. He got wind of the raid an hour before it went down, tried to call it off through the deputy superintendent. She was already in the van with the FBI vest-tight warrant signed. The morning after the raid, he stormed into the detective bureau screaming her name. She met him in the hallway, flanked by 2 stone-faced agents. He jabbed a finger in her face. "You set me up, you little..." She cut him off. "Captain Reed, you are relieved of duty pending investigation. Step away from the evidence locker." He lunged. The agents caught his arms. He roared, "I've got 22 years, she answered, voice low, "and I've got your signature on 18 falsified overtime sheets. Pick a number." Twist came at the disciplinary hearing. They thought the towing scam was the worst of it. She presented bank records, Reed skimming auction proceeds, routing cash to an LLC registered to his mistress. She played a recording, Reed on the phone with his brother-in-law 2 nights before the raid saying, "Burn the blue container, Lose the VN plates and pin it on the new girl if you have to." The room went silent. The commissioner, live on the dais, asked, "Captain Reed, do you have anything to say?" He looked at her, hatred naked, and said, "You'll never hold this chair." She stood, placed a folder on the table, and slid his captain's badge across the wood. Already due, ending unfolded 3 hours later, they promoted her on the spot, acting Captain Aisha Carter, 14th Precinct. She walked into his old office, sat in the chair still warm, and opened the blinds so the bullpen could see. Officers who once laughed now stood at parade rest. She keyed the intercom. "Roll call in 5. Bring your A game. The quota era is over. Call to action. If you're in Chicago, drive past the 14th tonight. Lights are brighter, radio's quieter, streets safer. If you're anywhere else, ask yourself, who's the rookie in your house waiting to take the chair? Tag the city you're watching from, share this, and let's keep the heat on every badge that thinks power is permanent."